Hello everybody, welcome to my latest video. Have you ever got a game or downloaded a demo thinking you're going to get one type of game and get something completely different? Well, that's basically just happened to me with this, Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. By all intents and purposes, this is an open world RPG. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but definitely wasn't what I got. But let's start from the beginning. Initially, character creation is relatively sparse in comparison to some other games in the open world RPG genre, looking at things like the Elder Scrolls. So there's no intricate changes to every single feature of the face, for example. You kind of select a prerequisite and then you can change certain facial details, but nothing to the extreme that you find anywhere else. You have set hairstyles, for example, colours. You can do the same with your facial hair as a male. I'm not sure what would happen if you selected a female, because I only selected a male for the demo. And you have then voice and tattoos, etc. That's basically your lot. You also only have two body types, other than male and female, of course. You have normal and muscular. So if you want to be short, tall, obese, rotund, whatever you want to call it, unfortunately you can't. Maybe that's because it's a demo, I'm not quite sure, but it does seem to be a bit of an omission, and to remove that just because it's a demo seems to be a bit of an odd choice. So I'm guessing it's just not an option at all. Now, the opening section sees you escaping from a prison, and my initial thoughts were, hello Elder Scrolls, because let's face it, every single iteration of the Elder Scrolls has you somehow breaking from, I'm going to say chains. Normally it's a prison, but in Skyrim it was literally just from the executioner's block, in theory. Now, I was initially thinking this is going to be a lower budget version of Elder Scrolls, and in some respects it is, and this is kind of where my original statement of, have you ever got a game that you thought was one thing and it turned out to be something different? It's kind of where this comes in, because when I read the write-up, it kind of sounded a little bit like Elder Scrolls, in as far as it's set in the world of King Arthur, or I should say after King Arthur's death. So it's set in Avalon, and Camelot specifically, and it is based on Arthurian legend. Now, anyone who's watched my videos recently will know that I have done another video on another game set in the same mythical period, which is A Knight's Tale, and that's a neocore game, but it's a turn-based kind of RPG, but more of a tactical RPG. This is definitely a first person, I'm going to say open world, although the demo itself is pretty much on rails, and that's something that I unfortunately cannot attest to whether it does open up. I'm hoping it does, and it does appear to by a lot of the videos, and basically what happens at the end of the demo as well. Now, visually, it's okay. I'm not going to say it's groundbreaking, especially with the release of the Morrowind update that has just happened. I would love to get that to do a brief review of it, and hopefully if my funds manage to stretch that far, I will do so. But in the interim, this demo is quite a nice holdover until that can occur. And as I say, visually it is okay. It's not going to win any awards, but at the same time, by the sounds of it, this is kind of an indie developer, so I think they've done a phenomenal job. The tone of the game is explained, that all of the mist around is kind of a lethal concoction that you can't enter. It's a very good way of limiting visual distance for games that can't really achieve it, but at the same time it might actually be a design choice that does open up later on. So I don't want to make the assumption that it's just there to stop people being able to see further. It might literally be there as a real game mechanic. Sound-wise, it's relatively good. I like to cover these off because sound plays a massive part in games, especially games of this nature. If you're walking through a crowded city and there's hardly any sound, it really does take you out of that immersion. Likewise, if you're walking past these big bonfires and you can't hear any flames, that also is a really big problem. Now, there is kind of an overtone to this, so I wasn't expecting too much from the sound in these particular sections. Now, I must admit that these did confuse me because they're almost like not a dream state as such, but they're definitely not in the physical world. If I was to liken this to Warhammer, which I'm going to because I love it, this is kind of like being in the Immaterium. It's like being the other side of the veil, if you are talking in Dragon Age terms. It very much is spiritual, I'm going to say. Now, combat is where things get very, very interesting. And this is where I'm actually going to explain my original opening statement of not getting the game I thought I was. I would honestly say that if I was going to describe this game to somebody just from the demo, it's a cross between the Elder Scrolls and Elden Ring. And there's one real big reason I say that. In the Elder Scrolls, combat is relatively straightforward. You move forwards and swing your sword, you hold block, they attack, they hit your block, and then you attack them. It's a very simplistic system. Obviously, if they're a big enemy, they will break your block, that's fine. But even so, it's still a move forward and back and sort of swipe your weapon while you can. Yes, you have stamina that you have to manage, I guess, but it's not one of those things that you take 3 swings and your stamina's gone. And unless it's this game, and you really do have to manage your stamina because you tire extremely quickly, at least in the opening stages of the demo. In fact, right through the demo, which I believe is the opening stages of the game. Combat is punishing. I'm not going to say it's Souls-like, because I don't think it is. There is a parry mechanic, and if you time your parries perfectly, you do stagger the enemy. So in that regard, it does have some of those tendencies, but I think the Souls-like tag is used way too often these days, because, let's face it, Souls-like is a generic term for a difficult RPG, and I don't particularly like it, but I do think from a difficulty perspective, there are similar difficulty levels from what I have seen so far, and I would say that thematically this seems very similar. It's just odd. I have no idea what is going on. The only thing I know from this game is that there is a plague going on called the Red something or other. I can't even remember what it's called. There is also a group of characters that you're kind of fighting but seem to be trying to bring King Arthur back, called the Red Priests. And then there is a soldier who saved you but wouldn't tell you who he is. And it's just all very confusing. And although in this game you do get more of the story, and to be honest, I prefer that. I'm not a big fan of the the Elden Ring. You can do what you like, and hopefully if you follow it enough you might find bits that tell you what's going on. I do like to have a story told to me. Yes, I like to be able to find bits out myself as well, if there is any, but the Elder Scrolls way of doing it for me is brilliant, where you have the story told to you, but you can find lore that expands on the story if you wish. It does seem that this game has that sort of thing in it as well. And you probably saw from a cutscene a few minutes ago, it really does have that kind of grotesque weirdness from the Elden Ring and the Souls series, but at the same time it has more of the storytelling of Elder Scrolls. So my original statement stands. I thought I was getting Elder Scrolls. It's turned out to be Elden Ring, but with an Elder Scrolls twist. I'm not sure whether I like it. I think I do. I like Arthurian legend anyway, and I like RPGs, as my whole channel is based on. And if Elden Ring told a story better, I'm not overly averse to difficult games. On my old channel, if I had the ability, I would have uploaded playthroughs of a game called Bound by Flame, and that was an extremely difficult game to platinum, and I managed it. I got the platinum of Bound by Flame, and that's known as one of the hardest games of the era to beat, and I did it because the story engaged and captured me. The Elder Scrolls games, the stories nearly always engage and capture me. Yes, they are a buggy mess. Yes, they could be better. They're never technically the best games out there, but at the same time, they don't have to be. I think the drive for the perfect game is what's basically killing the industry. Anyway, besides that, let's talk about what I honestly feel about the demo, because I can't comment on the game as a whole. So from a pure RPG game perspective, we have the standard weapon loadouts, we have your armor, your trinkets, so rings and amulets, etc. I think there are capes in this as well. You have loadouts, so you can have up to 4 loadouts. I'm not quite sure how to switch between them apart from going into the menu and selecting the one you want to use, but other than that you can use ranged, magic, two-handed, sword and shield, twin swords, all sorts of things. You have healing potions, you have crafting, cooking, alchemy, all of the trappings of an Elder Scrolls style game where there is a lot of interaction. And by interaction I mean interaction with the game environment and different tasks and things you can do and all sorts of things like that. It's also the type of game that you'll be picking up random stuff like cups and plates and forks, just like in the Elder Scrolls. That gives me that open world RPG feel, and it's kind of why I originally thought this is just another Elder Scrolls type game. And I say just another, I think this is probably the first one I can say honestly feels like one. It feels like an old Elder Scrolls game, don't get me wrong, but it feels like an old Elder Scrolls game I've not played, which is a good thing. Now one thing about this, and another reason I said it kind of feels a bit like an Elden Ring Souls type game. Elder Scrolls are not known for having the best boss fights. In fact, boss fights aren't really a thing. You might come up against a troll or something along those lines. In Skyrim you'll come up against a dragon, but that's kind of it. It's a dragon. You kind of know what a dragon is and what might happen when you fight it. It's possibly going to fly, it's got sharp claws and teeth, and it will probably breathe fire. The Souls games and Elden Ring have bosses you look at and think, what the hell is that? What am I going to be experiencing fighting this thing? How is it going to react? How is it going to move? All of those things happen in this game. You only get to see it once, and that once is literally about to happen on screen. So you have this wonderful system here where you have the ability to perform special actions using soul fragments. You find one in the demo, and basically it allows you to do certain strange things, such as slow time. Then you have these massive bosses. Now, I never found a way of changing the look of the screen, so you're kind of locked in this perspective, but it kind of works for this type of game. And as with all things Elden Ring or Souls-like, you're going to find my health disappear very rapidly. But I'm going to leave it there, because I'll tell you now, I am going to die. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you click the like button, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and please leave me a comment down below. Also, please make sure you share this video, and in the meantime, you all take care. I look forward to seeing you very soon for my next video. Bye for now.